Hello, I am Bones. I am a writer. I make comics. Probably comics are being drawn on the screen as we speak. That's not me, that's my wife. She does the drawing. Anyways, writing. I've been trying to think up video topics, and instead of doing that, I have been watching people play Tears of the Kingdom, and somehow, in a half awake, half asleep days in the middle of the night, I came up with this perfect idea to explain plot by looking at a plot. It baffling. None have done it before, so slow down. Speed up. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going. I am all over the place. I am so sorry. Anyways, I had this idea because Tears of the Kingdom signposts the beginning and ends of its plots very blatantly. It does so in like a cheeky way with like the beginning and ending of quest lines, and it actually just serves as like a really good, super obvious plot point, like literal plot point to point at. I'm saying point too much. And with that, I thought, heck, it's time for me to do a new video about my favorite form of plotting, which is the lace method. The lace method is derived from the mice quotient, which was Orson Scott Card's, and I learned it from Mary Robinette Kowal, and she calls it the Mace quotient, and she is so good at teaching writing and lovely, and I learned so much from her, and she's on the Writing Excuses podcast, and yeah, I highly recommend it for anyone who wants to learn writing things. Anyways, lace. Basically, the lace quotient describes 4 different types of plots. It describes location plots, question-answer plots, character plots, and event plots. And then it kind of describes how you go about them. On a general level, you start with any type of plotline, and you end that plotline to match with whatever letter kind of plotline you're using. And all the obstacles along the way, all the middles, are going to be conflicts that get in the way of that end. And therefore, they kind of have a specific flavor to them. And I've tried to explain this before, and it all gets very, very vague, which is why I'm going to go into examples. But as I have learned from trying to record this video over and over again, you probably need to know a little bit about each type of plotline first. So I'm going to go over them one by one, and then I'll go into the very specific examples that happen in Tears of the Kingdom, and hopefully we all can have a great time. If you have no interest in ever playing Tears of the Kingdom, then I think you can still glean something from this. If you have, hopefully you also glean something from this. If you don't want to be spoiled, I will go over these plot lines, and then you can dip out after leaving a like on the video, because I am a small little guy, and likes mean a lot to me. Anyways, big ramble. Let's get into it. So the first plot type is location. Location plot is super easy to understand. A location plot is where you start at one point, one physical location, and you go to another one. It's like you want to go to a place, and then stuff along the way gets in your way from getting to the place. Okay. The second type of plot is a question-answer plot, wherein the first plot point is a question, and the last plot point is the answer. And along the way, you get clues, and you fail, and you struggle to find the real answer. And then there is character plots. Character plots, I feel like, are the ones that everyone kind of understands, but they're where your character starts emotionally, mentally, just as a character in one place, and they either make a change for the better or they learn to accept where they are, who they are, etc. It's character plots, character growth occurs. You start as one person, you end as another. That is character. And the last one is event. And events are where something happens that disrupts the status quo, and then a new status quo is set. So, lovely, beautiful, wonderful. Let's use Tears of the Kingdom as examples. So, spoilers, I'm just going to go through all this. So, I'm not going to start at the very beginning. I'm going to start where the idea came to me. That's where you get your quests, because it's so cute how it's done. Because when you think about lace as a plotting method, I think one of the most important structural things about it is that you close and open in the same order, the same reverse order. Like you start with one point and that's the very last point that you close. And then like you go further in, and then subplots happen kind of within other plots and they close within, and sometimes they have plots within plots, and sometimes they happen back to back, but like one close. It's confusing, right? But Tears of the Kingdom does it great, does it very visually, where you get your very first quest line to find the princess, and then at the very end of the story, the last quest line that you get ticked off, all cheeky like, is you find Zelda. Like, that's the last thing you do. And then you get like the Destroy Ganon plotline, and you do that at the end before you save the princess. So in reverse order, it happens. And then it also very neatly describes the idea of like having plots within plots, and the fact that you can close off a bracket and start a new bracket as well. So like you get your quest from Pura, which is to figure out what the heck is going on with this Zelda that everyone is seeing. And then you go to any of the 4 regions, the regional phenomena, you investigate, and in theory, if you're a good little boy who does plots in order, you will begin one plot and close it, begin another plot, close it, begin one plot, close it, until you've gone to all 4 regions, and then you get an ending to the whole Pura saga, where you do find out what is going on with that Zelda that everyone is seeing, and then a whole new plot opens, which is the whole final segment where you go and find the 5th sage and all the other little bits and bobs. Of course, this isn't perfect, because in video games, especially in this video game, like you can go all over the place and do whatever you want. And I personally found the 5th sage before I found any of the other ones, but that was me being obstinate, and you know, that can happen in an open-ended video game. Regardless, that is basically how all of that works, because you open up the Spirit Temple questline and you close it, and then you are free of things that you have to close, and you can do the final little endy bits. And then there's the dragon tiers, which you can kind of do in whatever order, and it's kind of like a story that runs parallel, so I would just like take it out and put it somewhere else, just because it's so random on how you can go through that one. So now letters. Now I vaguely described the plot. Letters. So the first one, Find Zelda. What type of plot is that? The type of plot that is a question answer plot. It is the A in Lace. We are looking for an answer as to where Zelda is. And throughout the game, you through doing other plot lines, because it's important to note that like beginnings of some plot lines can just be plot points along other plot lines. It's crazy, right? So the whole Pura explore thing, like all of those equate to plot points on the bigger scale of finding where the heck Zelda is, and they're also their own like openings and closings. Anyways, you start with the question of like where she is, and you end by finding her. And I think what's kind of interesting about this, right, is that you'd think that once you get like the Master Sword and you've done all of that and you find out that Zelda is a dragon, you'd think that that is kind of like the end to that plot in a way, right? Maybe you're like, okay, the question is like, where is Zelda? We found her. She is a dragon. But the question just changes, but it remains the same. That's sort of like how the question plot will work. It's like you reveal more information that just makes things more complicated. It's like, okay, we found Zelda, kind of. Like, we found out that the one is like Phantom Ganon, and we found out that the real Zelda is a dragon. And it's like, okay, but like, how do we find her? Like, how do we get her back? That remains the question. It is the same question as the beginning. It's just phrased a little different, because like the question isn't like, okay, we found out where Zelda is, it's over. Like, the question is like, how do we get her back, right? And it remains a question answer plot throughout the whole thing, regardless of how things shift based on like the knowledge that you learn. Because at the very end of the story, like, you do get her back and you rescue her, and it's wonderful. And you get the little good thing, little thing that happens. It's great. Quest done. The other one, Ganon, jerkface, lovely man, Twitter art. Destroying him. That quest line opens up when he destroys the castle, and I know that happens before you get the actual quest line for it, because the first thing that happens is that you lose Zelda, and then everything else gets screwed up. It kind of happens together, but in the plot point wise, you see the castle, whoosh, everything terrible exploding, whatever happens second. And that's also the way that you get the quest lines. You get the find Zelda and destroy Ganon. Like, you get it in the same order, so regardless of where we put the beginning, it remains the same. Destroy Ganon is a event story. It is the E at the end of Lace. It is the status quo ruining. It is Hyrule ripped apart and Sky Islands falling, right? And it ends when you destroy Ganon, and it's over. All the evil's gone. Kaboom, right? And all the things that happen along the way are, instead of like finding like clues to like uncover an answer, instead you are being met with status quo shaking things. You're being met with the boss battles, basically. Those are events. And when you're writing your story, that's still what happens, is you find events. If the story is about big man throw castle, then monster fights are gonna happen. Big man throw castle make monster. Along the way to stopping big man with castle throw, you're gonna defeat monsters. They're gonna be in your way. And that is how an event plot happens, and it escalates and gets harder and harder until you are fighting a dragon. So, lovely, beautiful event story. The next one, as I already mentioned, the next thing that opens is the whole quest that Pura sends you on. And that quest line is a question answer quest line. It has its own arc, but it exists within the major question answer plotline. The same with the dragon tears in a way, like those are also your little question answer. Sherlock Holmes putting your sleuth cap on, and then it ends, like that whole plot line ends with an answer. Like it has a very definitive question of like what the heck is going on with all of these events, and each one of them you uncover a bit of the story, and you also through like each of the temples, right, like there's a quest line that occurs, like something bad is happening in each of the regions, and then you solve it. So in a way, like those are like event things. Like there's an event story where you come in and the status quo is ruined and you fix the status quo. And then there's also the question answer plot that happens like overarching this. And then there's like some character plots that are also thrown in. Like Sidon has a Sidon Fishboy, he has one, a bit of a character arc. It's very quick. but regardless, like each of those event plots occur within the Pura answer question plot, and each of them are a plot point, and each of them like explain a little bit, and all of them close with you figuring out that the Zelda that you're seeing is actually Phantom Ganon, regardless of if you pieced it together quick or not. That is the answer, and that's when that plot ends with Pura. Like, it doesn't continue. It exists in its own thing, it closes, and then a new one opens up. It's like, okay, we figured that out, now what? So then you open up, like, the Rings of Ruin questline, or if you opened it earlier, you could say that it opened at the beginning, and anyways, it gets confusing because you can, it's a game, right? Because you can explore and open whatever quest lines you want. So yeah, a whole bunch of event plot lines put inside of a question answer plot line, inside of an event plot line, inside of a question answer plot line, and arguably all of it is inside of another event plotline, right? Because the very, very beginning is like the gloom is appearing, right? And if you get the perfect ending, all of it wraps up. You get to see the new status quo of Hyrule as a whole. The big the big bubble it's all in gets closed. And that just leaves us with, how do I explain the last two plot lines? Plot types. Location and character. I'll start with location because it's kind of easy. I was sitting there trying to think, where is the location plot? And honestly, the answer is, because it's a video game, it's going to be very self-directed, the location plotline, as opposed to watching it play out. But the location plotline is you physically going from one place to the other, and everything you encounter in between, everything that slows you down, that is plot in a way. If you were to write your own story, if you were writing a comic, if you were to put this into a more linear boxed story, that would be your location plot. It's like, I need to get to the Rito village, and here is all of the things that happen along the way. I get stopped by so many things, and I get lost. The real villain, the real plot disturbance to the location plot is purely ADHD and just getting distracted by everything, right? Like, that is the location plot of Tears of the Kingdom. One man's struggle against his desire to be a silly boy. Right. Anyways, the last one is then character plot lines, and I don't think there is a huge, definitive, easy to point out character plot line. I think Tears of the Kingdom is really good for pointing out question answer plot lines and how those work, as well as the event plot lines, I think it does like a super great job at explaining those. There's not a whole lot of character growth. Oh, you know it's a location plot in a way? Like Zelda trying to get back to the future. That just dawned on me. She's in the past and she wants to get to the future, and she tries to figure it out and then realizes like how that has to happen at the end. That is literally like a location plot. Whoa. Blew my own mind. That is definitely how those work. That's like a classic example is you get put in a place and you really want to go back to where you came from. Okay, that works. Yeah, because like the classic example of a location plot is like Wizard of Oz. That's it. So that's that. I would also say that there is some amount of like a character plot that occurs there, because it definitely is like a character journey that she goes on from one end to the other, and it's concluded in there. I think that one of like the most like defined large bracket around a lot of the story character arc would be Rauru, because it basically begins when you meet him as a ghost, and then it ends with him helping Zelda become Zelda again. And I think there's a lot to be said about how he gets from that point, like where he is as a ghost, as a failure, hoping for Link to do the thing, to helping at the end. And yeah, there's definitely like the most amount of plotline point things I can see are like Rauru's. It's just harder to place rather than a lot of other stories where they have very big, dramatic, easy to point out character arcs. Yeah. So any questions? That's my that's my thesis. Yeah, so when you are writing your own stories, do that. There you go. I made a video. Are you proud? I'll see you again one day. Goodbye.